afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Live. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and certified sexologist in private practice. And I'm offering this program to you, actually, we offering this program to you, myself and Dr. Robert Jaffe, who's my dear friend, best friend, business partner, mentor for the past many, many years. And if I left out anything, please let me know. We are talking about another, aspects of human sexuality and sexual health care at this hour. And of course, at 4 p.m., we're going to start with a new topic, both of us, trauma, addictions, codependency, all impacting relationships. So everything we're talking about is all about relationships, basically, and how to improve that. And for now, we're focusing on sex and sexuality and sexual healthcare as a very important aspect of, healthy relationships. Dr. Jaffe, welcome.
Thank you, and welcome to everybody out there. When you say at the beginning, to become our loving, authentic, true selves, I just want to comment that the vast majority of us as human beings are born into the world as our authentic, loving, true selves. It's why love is the subject of discussion more in the world than any other topic throughout human history. More books, more poems, more songs, more movies, more conversations, really, about love. And that's because love is the essence of who we are. And we all know that intuitively, deep down, we know that. However, because of the fact that we live in bodies that can be injured and hurt and die, we get off track in terms of our spiritual selves, our loving selves, and we think much more about survival and about getting ahead, which are all ego-based. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not the essence of who we are. Who are we? What is our loving, authentic, true self? So we say that our loving, true self comes into the world open to learning, open to connecting with others, open to loving. We come in calm, unless we're spanked when we first come in. We don't have to, that they're sort of doing away with that now. We don't have to be spanked. Though they used to think that you would spank the child to get the child to get the baby to take an in-breath. But now we realize the baby doesn't need to be spanked to do that.
Right.
That the baby can be warmly received and cuddled and held, and the baby will breathe just fine. Doesn't need to be spanked. We all come in curious. We're like, what's going on here? I was just feeling.
My warm cozy.
I didn't have to do anything, including breathe. And now all of this stuff comes up, and gee, wow, this is very interesting. They don't come in with a bad attitude. They come in open and curious. And we all come in emotionally available. We are all affected by other people's emotions, and we all learn to give and receive emotionally. Babies do that automatically. They do that through body language, facial expression, and of course, the types of crying, that there's many, many types of crying. If the parent is attentive, the parent can recognize the type of crying. There's a feed me crying, I need to be held crying, I need to be changed crying, I'm uncomfortable crying, I'm in pain crying. And the parent can pick up on that. So we communicate immediately when we come into the world.
Exactly.
We all come in honest. We don't know how to lie. We just comment on what we see and what we think and what we feel. We come in compassionate. We have the ability to see other people's emotions and to feel along with them. And we come in trusting of the world, trusting that people will take care of us and that we will be attended to. Sometimes that trust is misplaced, unfortunately, but often it's not. And we learn that we can trust other people and that it feels good to trust other people. And then, of course, what we're talking about today is our sexuality. So we all come
Right.
in sexual beings. Um, we are formed through sexual union, and we come out with sexual, not just with sexual organs, but with sexuality as a big part of who we are. And we talk about that in today's program. So
Exactly.
that's our authentic true selves. And today we're going to be talking about what's your sexual personality. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, Before that, because, I want to share an experience with everybody, and I feel comfortable doing that because I feel like, for everybody who's listening to our program, it forms a family. It forms a family of support
Mm.
because we know that there are people out there who are listening to us and they follow everything. So it's sort of an invisible bond that we are creating between each other. And I want to both say that how much I was hurt and also how much I was thankful for the responses I received. And when we talk about connection, we connect in different ways. And not all the connections are loving, unfortunately,
Mhm.
right? So the connection that I got was very negative and harmfully, impactful emotionally on me. And some of you may know because you may have received an hacked email that suggested that I needed money because my aunt passed away. And so when I was informed about that, I can't tell you enough how much it was overwhelming for me to receive all those supportive and non-supportive phone calls and texts that some people, they offer their condolences and they want to help, and some people were angry and some people were frustrated. Some people, they didn't know was that true or not. So there was a mixture of variety of reactions and emotions and actions, and it was just very apparently was very overwhelming for everybody. And in one hand, I was overwhelmed by the amount of support that I received,
Mm.
and how much people were kind and they really want to take care of me.
Mhm.
And then there were a group of people that they were kind of ambivalent about whether they should or shouldn't. And there were some people, very, very few, that unfortunately they fell for the email and they submit the payment,
Mm.
which thankfully they were able to, retrieve it, and the transactions didn't go through. So for the best of my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, no payments were, exchanged between the hackers and some of my contacts. Uh, so it wasn't just that, it left me with the feelings of being violated.
Mhm.
It left me with the feeling of what makes a person to do something like that. So instead of being that loving person that you just described so nicely, what causes a person to become a hacker and disrupt people's life this way,
Mhm.
right? And and I don't have a clear answer for that. I accept that maybe their environment forced them to be nothing but an abuser, because this is nothing but an act of abuse, profound abuse. It's a violation of people's right, people's privacy, people's level of comfort, people's respectfulness, and all of that. Um, but so I have taken care of everything, and for those of you who have received this email, if you have received it, I thank you for your understanding and for your support and your generosity of offering the help that you have. I have received help from people that I didn't even, imagined it. Uh, and the radio program, I have to say, KMET, thank you for all the help you provided to me. Bill, thank you so much. Um, but, you know, I'm glad it's over.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let me put it this way. I'm glad it's over, but that's not the type of connection that we want to have. That's not the type of, relationship that we want to have. And I wish these hackers a good life, a better life. I wish them kindness. I do wish them forgiveness. I wish them, peacefulness, so that they don't have to do this for a living anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
And but I tell you, among my connections, among people that I have on my contact list, I think this situation actually brought us together more closer. I felt, a stronger bond between myself and my contacts. And I want to thank you all for, being there for me and supporting me. And of course, you, Dr. Robert Jaffe,
Oh.
with the amount of, time that you spent, with me on the phone while I
Hmm.
was, away and taking care of all of this. I can't thank you enough, right?
Well, my pleasure, and you're very welcome. And that's what love is,
Yes,
right? When you love
yes,
someone, when you love somebody, probably the most important gift you can give them is your time.
right.
Yeah.
And you certainly did.
Well, thank you.
You certainly
Thank
did,
you.
and I cannot be more grateful. Uh, I just sometimes, I don't find the words to show my appreciation, but I want you to know that it's really there,
Thank you.
strongly.
Thank you.
And thank you. And so, uh, you know, with that, we go to our topic for today, which is, personality. You know, uh, as we grow up, we form different personalities. Some of it is genetic, majority of it is environmental,
Hmm.
right? And however, our environmental, sets us up, basically, that's what it is. However we grow up in our family, however we receive or not receive love, during,
Impacts us.
yeah, impacts us.
Hmm.
Yeah, everything impacts us. So these hackers were people probably that they didn't have the luxury and, the gift of love in their life.
Hmm.
If they had, they wouldn't activate it. They
Hmm.
are desperate people that they don't believe. I mean, look at the creativity of what they do, but they just don't know how to use their creativity.
Well, yeah, intelligence is different than love.
Right.
We now have the term, which we didn't have when I was growing up. We had IQ when we were growing up, and intelligence quotient. But now we have EQ, which is subsequent to my childhood, which is emotional intelligence.
Right.
Emotional intelligence has to do with seeing other people not as objects, not as objects to use, but seeing other people as fully human with all of the frailties and all the emotions and all of the um, uh, all of the human parts of us that each of us have. So uh, people who do harm to other people are very cut off emotionally. They have to be cut off emotionally because if you recognize that other people are going to be injured as you would be injured, then you can't do it to them.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for that comment. We just got a notice about our commercial break, so we will continue with our discussion right after this.
Please stay with us.
Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart to Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio Live. If you're just joining us, we're talking about sexual personality today, as how we connect, based on our personalities. And please call us, ask us your question. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. That's 951-922-3532. And if you wish not to contact us live, which we can understand, you may always, connect with us through email and through our private phone numbers, which are available on the screen for you and at KMET webpage. And we look forward to hearing from you, because this program is pretty much meaningless without you contacting us, right, Dr. Jaffe? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we hope that you enjoy enjoy our materials and enjoy our conversations. And in some programs, people invite different people to express opinion. We understand that. However, Dr. Jaffe and myself, we believe we have so much information and so many examples, and within the boundaries of ethics and clinical boundaries and all of that, we believe that we are offering you substantial amount of information and practices and examples for you to benefit from, instead of giving you ideas from here and there that, sometimes it can become too much or a little bit confusing even. We believe that having, perspectives that they are based on research materials and the latest science are very important, and not that the others are not, they are. However, that we think that this collection is maybe more effective. At least this is how we look at it, right?
Yeah, I think part of what I think is why we don't bring in guests is we want to endorse whatever goes out on our program.
Right.
And even though that's not to say that the guests that we would bring in would say anything that we didn't agree with, but we can't be sure.
Right.
So we can be sure about what we believe, what we endorse, and what we feel is worthwhile to share with the public.
Exactly. So I hope that clarifies some of our choices and method of offering you this program, and we're happy to discuss it with you if you wish to do so. So personality, why I chose this topic for today. Both Dr. Jaffe and myself, as you know, we see many couples in our practices that they don't have that sexual compatibility together. And they get excited with a new practice, a new method, a weekend getaway, a new, nightgown, and a new sex toy, a new sexual book, a new video, a new setting, a new candle, a new wine. So they get excited with any of that, right? But that doesn't last, because their personality is a part of who they are as a sexual being.
Right.
So we cannot change that with the candlelight, with a bottle of champagne or a bottle of wine or a bed full of rose or a weekend getaway, because that brings some level of excitement, some level of flavor. But ultimately, what goes in that sexual relationship is our personality. Our personality is fundamental to who we are with our partner.
Correct. Right? Yeah. And I want to add that we're not downplaying any of that.
No, of course not.
No,
those are exciting.
That it's fine to have exciting new things in your sex life. We're all for it. But when you say it doesn't last, what we want is the sexual experience to not be just confined to the bedroom.
Exactly.
We want the sexual experience to be something that you can live on a daily basis.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you're getting sexually excited all day during the day, but it means that you have a warm, romantic feeling inside of you that can be ignited fairly easily because you're carrying it with you inside.
Yes, in other words, we want you to feel that intimacy, with your partner, no matter where you go, and and that intimacy just needs to stay there, in my opinion, 24/7. And if we can feel that intimacy, then many of the problems in the relationships are solved, on their own, because it's the connection that and the communication that's, gives us the problems and the issues. So here are some of the questions that you may want to ask yourself to see, if you can relate to them and how they apply to you, and if you have experienced them, and what have you done for them, right?
Right.
For example, how important is it that your long-term partner is good in bed, right?
Yeah. And so what is good in bed?
What is good in bed?
Right.
Good job. Yeah, I was gonna ask you to comment on that.
Yeah. So to me, what is good in bed means that there is a synergy.
Right.
Synergy simply means an exchange of energy that both people find not just enjoyable and pleasurable, but also connecting.
Right.
That it makes them feel like they're becoming they are joining at the soul level.
Right.
That to me is synergy. And so when people are making love, if there is that synergy, if there is that deep feeling of connection and oneness while you're making love, then that becomes somebody that you would call good in bed.
Right. And as part of that, what I like to add to it is, one of the way that we can have that synergy happen is the feeling of safety with each other, right? So to feel safe with each other, that means how well and free can you be yourself in bed,
Right.
How well do you know your sexual desires, your sexual wants, and feel comfortable to, talk about them, to share them with your partner, and not have any guilt and shame about it.
Right.
Right. How well are you able to be receptive of your, partner's sexual desires? How do you understand him or her? How do you understand basically your level of comfort, with that regard, right? Because it's one thing to be able to express, our own sexual wants and desires. It's another thing to be comfortable, to be receptive of our partners.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are, so that when we say, how important is it that your long-term partner is good in bed, I guess that's a question for us too, right? So what is our understanding of that? And, once you understand it, what do you want to do with it?
Right. Yeah. And we have a saying in psychology that the longest distance a person can travel is from their head to their heart.
Yeah.
That means that you may know something in your head, but if you don't feel it in your body or in your heart, you don't really know it.
Right.
You may think it, you may intellectually believe it, but if you can't act on it, then there's something that's missing.
Right.
So acceptance of the way that you are and acceptance of the way that your partner is sexually becomes a big thing.
Yes.
And we can't accept something that we don't know exists, or we don't even know necessarily where it comes from.
And even if that's the case, because there are times that can be the case, right? If we feel safe with each other, and if we feel connected, we can simply ask our partners to explain that to us. We can ask our partner to teach it to us, because we don't know everything. I certainly, as a sexologist, don't know everything, but I know that when I don't know something, I simply ask for clarification. What does that look like? What feeling brings to the person? How is it actually done? Right? And why is it meaningful to them, right?
Right. Absolutely.
you know, and
Yeah.
acknowledge that, and once you acknowledge that, and if you don't know what exactly is involved in that process, you can ask your partner to teach it to you,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Which means that both you and your partner need to recognize that you both are open, have to be open to learning, and not believe that questions are insulting.
Right.
Um, One of the worst responses that you can give your partner is, "You should already know that,"
Right.
because uh, in our mind, we may have been clear, we may have been, uh, we may have expressed what we think or feel over and over again. But if our partner didn't get it, it doesn't matter that we've done it 10 times or 100 times. If they didn't get it, they didn't get it. And so rather than take offense that I've said this to you over and over, is just to recognize, okay, they may have heard it. That doesn't mean that they made that journey from their head to their heart, and that they can now, they've integrated what that piece of knowledge is and can now utilize it. So when I hear my couples saying, well, I've already said that to you, or I've said that to you 100 times, I say, well, it doesn't matter how many times. Just like when you come into therapy, if I say something to you and I come back the next week and you haven't implemented it, I assume that it hasn't traveled that distance from your head to a heart. I repeat it, or I repeat it in different ways. And if the second time I repeat it a third time, it doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
because the most important thing is that the other person gets it.
Exactly.
And when we say you should know already, you're already telling the other person that I'm just about ready to give up on you.
Right.
And that's not a good message you want to give to your partner.
Exactly. Exactly. So we want to be as encouraging, as supportive, as empathic as possible. We want to follow, paying attention, being attuned to each other. And within that, this is how we actually grow in relationship, because we say we know about ourselves more once we are in a relationship. And relationship teaches us who we are as a person, and also who we are as a sexual person. And that's the best way to go. There is no judgment. It's we're only learning about each other, learning about ourselves, and therefore, as a result, feeling the actual connection that we ultimately we want to experience, and the sense of safety and pleasure as a result, that is the ultimate goal that we want to experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So the other question you may want to ask yourself is, do you like to plan your sexual activity? I don't know how many times I have heard from my clients, my couples, that, well, we have a date night. And when we get to our date night, we either end up having a fight, or we don't feel sexual, or one of us is not available, or the kids are in the way, or, I mean, the reasons that they cannot maintain their date night is sometimes so many, right? And so they're not able to keep up, with their plan. But that's actually normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can plan, but we cannot futurize and predict future.
Right. Right.
Right? Things do happen, right? So, what is the solution?
Well, one solution is you keep your plan flexible.
Exactly.
Right. So if in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind you think, oh, date night, we're going to be sexual, that's fine. And you say, and you add to it, if it doesn't happen, that can be okay too, as long as we feel close and connected. And that's what I'm going to really work on, is trying to put all of my communication in a way that brings us closer. What I say to my couples is, in your intimate relationship, you're giving one of three messages all the time. The first message is, I want you to come closer. The second message is, I want you to move further away. And the third message is it's neutral.
Yeah.
It's just what's going on right now. And so if we become conscious of that, then what we want to do, obviously, is to give the message, I want you to come closer, or neutral. And if I do want you to move away, then I'm going to be open and honest about that and make it time limited. Right now, I don't have time. Right now, I'm preoccupied. Right now, I'm worried. Right now, and so I don't want a hug. I don't want that. But that's right now. Let's check in again in another hour or two.
Yes.
That's the kind of message you want to give, rather than pushing the other person away with a message, and the other person doesn't know why you're giving that message, and also it's not time limited.
Exactly. So, in other words, we want to be able to respect each other's feelings, and respect the boundaries, personal boundaries, which is sometimes is violated within relationships in the name of closeness. And so let's talk more about this part right after our commercial break. And please don't forget to call us 951-922-3532.
See you soon.
Welcome back to our commercial. Dr. Mixer, Dr. Robert, KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Live. We have been talking about sexual personalities, and some of the questions that we asked, we ended up with the question, do you like to plan your sexual activity? So Dr. Jaffe gave his insight before a commercial break, and spot on. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Sure. And then there is absolutely nothing wrong to plan for sexual activity.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's fun. It's something to look forward to,
Right.
know. It's fun to know that, you're going to be there with your lover, and, planning, and it's exciting, it's joyful, it's definitely motivating, it's something that, you want it to happen, you plan for it and you go for it. That's great. And I do encourage that. At the same time, life happens.
Life happens.
Life happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes, one partner comes home angry from their ugly boss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they receive a phone call. Sometimes they get hacked, like I did.
Yeah.
Which ruined my entire vacation. Thank you very much. Please don't do that to me again. And so many things can happen unexpected that you basically, if you have a date night, for sure you're not planning on ruining that. But many times external factors create that such a disruption, and sometimes our mood also is in a way, right?
Sometimes our mood, it can be any one of 1,000
right.
or a million things.
Right. So the good news is that while that one date can be, disrupted, there are many other times, every day that we can recreate it. And if one fails, there is the next time, right? There's always time to make up. And actually, I like the makeup better. Mm-hmm. The makeup is more exciting, more playful, much more joyful, more fun, more exciting. And, so basically, how can we do that, right? How can we make up for a failed, date night for ourselves? The real essence is, how intimate we feel towards each other.
Correct.
The real deal is that, what's the level of romance between each other,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And if those are at place, believe me, you're going to create more date nights, or date time for making love or just being together. Because, see, being together to feel that intimacy is the real deal here, and not just the making love. Having sex is the cherry on the top of being intimate to each other.
Correct.
Right? So you can
Correct.
be intimate and not have sex. You can be intimate and not make love, and still be so playful, so joyful together.
And of course, the reverse is true. You can be sexual and making love, quote unquote, and not be intimate.
And not be intimate. Yes,
Right.
you can do that as well. The point is that if the intimacy, if the trust, if the openness, if the connectedness, if the wanting to be together, if trusting each other, if the communication is there, healthy communication is there, then changing the date night or the love making time or anything, which we know definitely happens, it's no problem. This one didn't happen. Okay, let's plan for the next one, and then and the next time, like I said, is always the better one.
Yeah, yeah. So I think to me that actually brings up the issue of rejection and taking it personally.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which when that happens, and one person is looking forward to having a warm, emotional, intimate sexual experience, and it doesn't happen for any number of reasons, that person can then go into a place where they feel angry and resentful and hurt, and then that can carry over into the opposite of what they had planned. The intimate experience that they had planned can turn into a hurtful experience,
Right.
because they're more attached to the outcome than they are to the connection.
Right.
So the key is to be more concerned about your partner than you are about the act of making love.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and when that happens, and you demonstrate that to your partner always will feel positive and grateful and loved.
Exactly. Which brings me to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you express love?
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Right. How do you express love? So let's see. We express love when we propose. Right, which we know a dear friend of us is proposing soon, and congratulations. And when we were talking to this friend, I'm not going to mention his name, okay, because I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Okay.
you know, uh, so one thing that we talked about was the size of the ring.
The size of the
The
ring.
size of the ring.
Yeah.
And believe me, I loved what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I loved what he said, because it really is not about the size of the ring. It's about how you show your love. It's about how you convey your love. It's about how you express, what this love means to you.
Mm.
It's about, what does it bring to you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel next to this person about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to know yourself, better next to this person that you want to spend the rest of your life with?
Right.
How do you exchange and receive and perceive and understand each other's qualities and let each other grow that way?
Mm-hmm.
That's the expression of love, to
Yes.
create a safety zone for each other to be yourself,
Mm-hmm.
to feel you can enjoy being who you are, and appreciate each other. That's the essence of love. And with that comes the deepest level of intimacy.
Right.
With that comes the deepest level of romance.
Right. So I'm currently counseling a couple, and they often have arguments over money.
Right.
I'm sure none of our listeners can relate to that. And so what happens is, one of the partners wants to get something that costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
They are well-to-do and they can afford it, but they have priorities. They can't do everything they want. So one of the partners wants to do this. The other partner, puts up an objection and says, yeah, this is fine, but not right now. and then the other partner who wants to do it, gets offended and says, well, we can afford it, and so they end up in an argument. And what I have said to them and what I keep saying to them is, as long as the issue of what you get and when you get it supersedes the desire for connection, and that your relationship has got to be top priority, the more you're going to feel disappointed and discouraged. I said, if your relationship is not top priority, I said, then anything can interfere with it. And so you can argue about money, you can argue about the kids, you can argue about anything. And that becomes the thing that's most important, rather than the fact that this is my partner and I want my partner to be happy, and I don't want to win at the expense of my partner losing. That means that we have to talk about it and come to an agreement that we both feel is okay, even though neither one of us may be getting everything that we want.
Exactly. And one thing that it just occurred to me, and I think is important to mention here, that when partners start to argue, one cuts the other one, and then the other one cuts the first one, and then this cutting the conversation and jumping into each other's conversation to prove a point, remind me of what you said, you rather be right than being connected, being close, right? So one thing to do to prevent that, and especially that happens in sexual relationship, is to at least allow one person to finish what they want to say. Just listen. Just it can be hurtful, but I think when we listen and allow the one person to finish whatever they have to say,
right,
they're gonna feel they are heard.
Yeah, and
it kind of reduces the intensity.
And so that brings up the question of, how do you listen to somebody?
Right.
And I say that you either, with your intimate partner, you are either listening to understand, or you are listening to respond.
To respond, yes.
If you are listening to respond, even if you do what you're saying and you let the other person finish what they're saying, you may not have heard what they're saying,
right,
because you're busy building your case in your head, and then you're being polite and letting them finish, and then you go, are you finished? And then the person goes, yeah, and then you tell them what you said, but you don't include what they said. Right? So rather than listen to respond, listen to understand.
Right.
And if you don't understand, ask more questions.
Exactly.
Until you can tell the other person what they said in your own words, so that the other person can go, yes, I think he or I think she understands now.
Yes.
Because when you do that for the other person will be far more inclined to do that back for you.
Exactly. And these are some of the critical and very delicate points of communication, right? Especially when it comes to such a vulnerable and sensitive topic of sex and sexuality, right? So the other part that definitely reflects on our sexual personality is that how when couples select a method of having sex or making love, right? And if they have disagreement with that, how are they able to say their disagreement? For example, oral sex is one of the very sensitive, sexual activity. Even though it seems to be very common, the reality is it's not. The reality is that many couples still have a difficult time with oral sex, whether that's because of their, spirituality, their religious practice, their culture, their belief, whatever it is, oral sex and anal sex. I'm going to add that they're not favorable. They're not perceived as comfortable
to many people.
To many people, right? There are very few couples that I see that they are very comfortable with having anal sex, or they have, oral sex. Usually, what I have seen in my practice, that men are more in favor of having oral sex than women. Men are more in favor of having anal sex than women, right? And so how do you speak about what you don't want, and how do you understand what does it mean to your partner that they like oral sex or anal sex?
Yeah.
When one cannot relate to it.
Yeah. And then that of course brings up the question of if you don't like a sexual practice, why don't you like it?
Why don't you
See,
like it? Yeah.
and people often get defensive when asked, well, why don't you like it? I just don't like it, and I don't think I have to justify it, right? I just don't like it. And so then it shuts down the conversation.
Exactly.
Right. And rather than think about it as justifying it, you can think about it as exploring yourself along with your partner.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we make decisions about things, including sex, that actually have nothing to do with our preference, but have to do with our ideas about what it means.
What it means, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you haven't practiced something, or your prior practices have failed to give you joy, it doesn't mean that it's always like that. So that's one side of the equation. The other side of it is that, what I hear is like this. Why do I have to comply when I don't know something, when I don't like something? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do that.
Right.
So there is so much to talk about, and we just got our signal that our program is about to end. Why don't we continue with this maybe next time?
Well, we always say that, and we always do.
And outside the program, we're here to answer your questions. So if these are some of your experiences, please do contact us. You can contact us via email and phone number that you see on your screen, or at KMET Facebook Live or our own Facebook. So until 4 o'clock, which we're going to start our second program about codependency, trauma, addictions, all impacting relationship, which is just in about a couple of minutes away. Don't forget that all you need is love.
All you need is love, and hopefully we will see you in the next hour.
In the next hour.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The proceeding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station